SCG Dallas Fort Worth was the first big modern event that we've had since the banning of Hogak and Faithless Looting and the unbanning of Stoneforge Mystic. And the big headlines were how oppressive or how good was Stoneforge Mystic going to perform, and how was the modern format in general going to handle a huge banning that we had just this past Monday. So the thing I'm going to go over in this video is really just looking at the top 8 decks, like what exactly top 8'd, and then looking at the day 2 metagame breakdown, and just kind of giving my thoughts and opinions on deck choices and basically how the modern format as a whole looks. So I'm just going to start with the top 8 because that's mostly what everybody looks at. So we had Zan playing Burn, Harlan playing 4-color Wurza, Ross playing Titan Shift, Collins Mullen and Dylan Donegan both playing Burn, John Lim playing a Rakdos mid-range, Sam Birkenbile playing Mono Green Tron, and Russell Lee playing Grixis Death Shadow. So just from that quick look over of everything, and I'll keep the I'll post the link where you can find the day 2 metagame breakdown and the top 8, and then also I believe they have like the standings for the classics and things like that, if that's something you're interested in. But essentially, just like as a quick look at all the decks that were being played, we had Grixis Shadow, we had Tron, we had Rakdos Midrange, we had Titan Shift, 3 burn decks, and then we had Grix or 4-color Wurza as our top 8, which is actually, while it doesn't seem like it's very diverse, obviously it's about as diverse as it's been in a long time. I believe I was reading through what people were saying was healthy, or if they asked if the modern format was healthy. I think it was Harlan that said anytime Burn is good in modern, it's in a good spot. And while I like playing Grixis Shadow, and I obviously like hate playing against Burn because their consistency and everything has just gone up with the Horizon lands and things like that. I kind of agree that when Burn is kind of like one of the decks that people are just gonna like kind of overload on, like that's kind of fine, because the things that Burn does that's unfair are kind of easily beaten by the sideboard cards and even some main board cards that you can play. So with Burn being the deck that's being oppressive and being heavily represented in like top 8s and things like that, is obviously a thing that can change. Obviously, as Modern adapts, Modern can adapt easier to Burn being the best deck than it could Hogak or even Blue-Red Phoenix being one of the best decks in the format. So that was just a quick look at the top 8. Now we're going to head over to the day 2 metagame breakdown. And this is every deck that made it into day 2, which usually needs a 7-2 or better record or tied for 64th. So right here, just kind of looking at the decks that had multiple copies into day 2, Burn being the most represented in the top 8 and being most represented in day 2 with 21 copies. All the Wurza decks, whether it's Grixis Wurza or 4-color Wurza or any other like variation of that deck, there were 17. Mono Green Tron with 15, Titan Shift with 10, Jund 8, Human 7, Azorius Control 6, Grixis Death Shadow 4, Mono Red Prowess, Infect, Amulet Titan, and Bant Stoneblade having 4 copies across the board. Eldrazi Tron, Giftstorm, Obzon Company with 3, Hardened Scales, Bant Eldrazi, and Bant Spirits, Azorius Spirits, and Devoted Devastation with 2 copies. So basically, like what we're seeing here now is kind of this that's do a real quick count here: 1 2 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 different archetypes that had put at least 2 decks into day 2, which is pretty huge, considering obviously I have to check like the conversion rates and stuff like that for like how many players actually brought like Burn, Wurza, things like that on day 1 and then ended up converting to day 2. Obviously we know that there was at least like 3 Burn players, a Wurza player, a Tron player, Titan Shift, so on and so forth, that ended up converting their day 2 into a top 8. So overall, everything just kind of looks like it's back in place, like kind of where we want to be as far as what the modern format was. Essentially, the worry of it was that Stoneforge Mystic and Azorius control decks, or like Bant Stoneblade and things like that, were going to be decks that were going to be super oppressive and essentially just cause a ton of problems for the format. really just end up pushing it towards unhealthy. Of course, like the fears of like past standard, where like Stoneforge Mystic and Jace were both legal in the format, that people were going to be playing just like these kind of value-y type like flash decks or just equipment decks, to where they just kind of take over the game by slapping their a sword or a batter skull or something like that on like a snapcaster mage, or some of these other like a deck that I'm going to be going over sometime this week, the Bant Stoneblade deck, because I think that was one of the that was like a pretty sweet and pretty competitive like Stoneblade list that wasn't just kind of like blue white control with the Stoneforge package. It was pretty, it's pretty sweet, because you just play a bunch of like flash threats, and then you stick your swords, you stick your batter skull or whatever on it, and then just kind of like value your opponent out of the game. So kind of like even scrolling through these other deck lists, and I'm gonna have the link in the description of this video to kind of check out like all of these decks, or really just kind of get more of like the breakdown and everything. I think Modern actually is in a really good spot. Of course, I think everyone expected it to be after these bannings. Definitely with the fact that the format is a lot slower. Burn is going to be one that kind of thrives more, because it's just meant to be faster. Like it was always like a turn 3, turn 4 deck, and now it's just kind of like sitting in there where people want to be playing decks like Jund and Titan Shift, and even Mono Green Tron and Humans and stuff like that, where Burn has a lot of play, I think, against like a lot of the top decks in the format. Granted, if you watch the finals I think took all of like 10 minutes, because Infinite Thopters was assembled on turn 2, and or yeah, it was like assembled on turn 2, and then I think on turn 3 or turn 4, like the next game, it was kind of nuts. So definitely some of these like top decks in the format have game against Burn, and can fight their way through if Burn continues to be the top deck in the format, to kind of like bring its numbers down. The only deck that I can see really causing problems as far as how the metagame looks right now would probably be the Wurza decks, because if people are going to continue playing these like mid-range decks, they're definitely going to have to be more like Jund, for example, and Humans are definitely going to have to adapt to like Ensnaring Bridge being a card, because if they stick an Ensnaring Bridge and can empty their hand, then these decks just kind of have a hard time fighting through it. Granted, Humans would have a harder time than Jund, because Jund has the Assassin's Trophies and Maelstrom Pulses and things like that to deal with it, while Humans just kind of dumps its hand and just tries to kill you, that sort of thing. So really, all in all, like Modern so far after week 1 looks fantastic and is a lot of fun to play. I played a little bit at FNM and over just the weekend in general, and it was just a lot of fun. Like it probably generated some of the most fun games that I've had playing Modern, and the fact that like my deck Grixis Shadow definitely looks a lot better and feels a lot better with all the bannings and things that they've done. So yeah, that's really gonna be it for like my analysis and everything of Modern. We're gonna be going over a few of the decks that were played this past weekend throughout the week, just kind of like some of the fun ones. Like I said, definitely want to do Bant Stoneblade, because that one was sweet. We'll probably go over like Warzone stuff too, like the decks that are like really noteworthy to go over. And yeah, that's going to be it for the video. Make sure you leave a like and comment down below what deck you're going to be playing in Modern, and how you think the Modern format is looking right now. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and my Twitch channel. I'm going to be trying to stream at least once or twice this week while I'm off. It's my longer week, so hopefully try to fit in a few streams, get in some sweet decks in an arena, try to grind for Mythic and that sort of thing. And yeah, that'll be it. I'll see you guys in the next video.